And for the next hour and a half, the Bee Gees are Fraternally Yours from Miami in the company of Nicky Campbell.
I'm going back to Massachusetts. Staying alive, staying alive. We know how to do it.
Happy New Year, and it's New Year from Miami, a traditional Scottish New Year. I've actually first quoted the Bee Gees. Let me tell you something about the Bee Gees, first of all, the brothers Gibb. They have sold more records than U2 and Bruce Springsteen put together, a true phenomena of the music business. A few facts and figures just to throw at you here. 6 times Grammy Award winners, 5 times under their own name. Of course, the other one was with Barbra Streisand and the Guilty album. 27 US hits, 9 number ones. Never mind the stuff they wrote for other people.
Never mind.
24 British hits, 5 number ones. It's nearly 25 years since they first appeared. Appearing recently has been the very best of the Bee Gees, a celebration of those 25 years. And what better way to spend New Year's afternoon than to do that with Barry, Maurice and Robin Gibb. Maurice, what are your brothers like?
They are very warm people, very intellectual, very talented people. I think they're probably 2 of the best songwriters I've ever worked with. And I wouldn't write with anybody else. Robin's a bit extrovert.
Robin? What about Maurice and Barry?
I think they are very, very sensitive people, easily roused, love to experiment.
Are they talented?
Not very talented, but very sensitive.
Barry?
Robin and Maurice.
Either way.
Or either way. Non-identical twins, although sometimes they're very much alike, and they tend to swing from dominant to passive.
Tell them about the experiments.
The experiments have indeed been a success, and we're hoping to have another one.
On the weekends.
When did you start writing songs? How old were you?
Oh, Barry was the first one. He was about 8 or 9, I think.
I was about 9 years old, when I came up with what might be the first song we were ever to do, and that was called Turtle Dove, but I have no actual memory of it.
I don't believe you.
It's true, I have no memory.
I bet you do, if you really
I have I promise you, I have. I wish I could, so I could sing it to myself every now and again in the shower.
So what about some of the really early stuff after you'd emigrated to Australia?
When we actually were discovered by Bill Gates, a disc jockey in Brisbane, he discovered us. We were there first, but he discovered us.
He
ran over us in his car. He said, come into the studio in the radio station and we'll do some...
You explain who he was. Bill Gates was the biggest DJ in Brisbane at that time.
Which, it's really nothing. He was the only one. But anyway...
It was about 1958.
Yeah, when we were very, very young, of course.
How old?
About 8 years old.
8 years old.
Yeah.
6 or 7
and we went in and cut some songs on a normal tape recorder for him to play on the air during his radio program, and that was actually the first airplay we ever received on anything we ever wrote.
Yeah, that was called "Let Me Love You."
So you were really like 3 little Jimmy Osmonds in those days?
No.
No, nothing like Jimmy.
I'll tell you what would be delightful, but before we hear something on record from after you went to Britain, would be to hear maybe a snatch of some of those early songs.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Those undiscovered masterpieces.
Undiscovered.
In the archives of our brain.
This is called "Let Me Love You."
Let me love you, I'll never let you go. Let me love you, because I need you so. Let me love you, nobody else will do. Let me love you, I need you in my arms. Let me love you, you and all your charms. Let me love you, nobody else will do.
Yeah, I think
that was absolutely marvellous.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, thank you.
it was very relatively easy as well.
Really, you should record that.
Okay.
We think so.
Yeah.
Why did you move to Britain then? Were you desperate to get back into the music scene?
We knew that the next move from Sydney, which is the biggest city in Australia, was to go to either the States or the UK, and our first choice was the UK because we were English.
Well, we'd been there. We emigrated as a family. We'd been there for about 9 years. So we'd been pretty much influenced by American radio more than anything else, because in Australia, when we were kids, all you heard was American radio. And it is very far away from the rest of the world, Australia, so you get a different kind of influence altogether. So all we heard most of the time was Beach Boys and
the Beatles as well.
when the Beatles
as well. Yeah, even before the Beatles, most of our records that we heard were Roy Orbison records.
But by the time we left, we were very influenced by the British music scene.
Yeah.
But it was earlier on that it was America. But
I think we went as far as we could go regarding, because Australia's show business world in those days was very young, it was very inexperienced.
And we
went
wanted
as far as we could go.
Yeah, the Mersey boom was exciting us, and we weren't able to be part of it. We wanted to be part of it too. So
the Beatles were the ultimate influence
at the time we went to England. Yes,
without
of course.
a doubt.
And of course they were drawing so many people towards them, weren't they?
That's right.
Yeah.
We wanted to be just like them. You know.
In fact, that's probably true. A lot of groups came from other countries just to be in England because the Beatles were there. We arrived, we got off the ship, and there was 4 guys dressed up as the Beatles dressed in Help. They had these long black cloaks on and these caps, and they were stood on the docks. It was almost like it had been filmed on purpose. There was this stigma, you know. These 4 people telling us to go back.
Go back.
They were, you know, saying, you can't succeed in England.
Clapton's God, go back.
Clapton's God, groups are out.
Talking of stigma, Robert
Stigma.
Robert Stigwood, he was involved in NEMS, Brian Epstein's enterprise. So you must have really felt excited.
When we first got to London, there was quite a few people who said that groups are out now and you can't. Top agents telling us, forget it.
It was common thought at that time that the groups were pretty much at the end of their
And the
run,
reason we got this phone call, I don't know why or where or how, but Stigwood called our house in Hendon that we were renting, we were living in.
Hendon.
And Mum said it was a Mr.
Somebody attacks in
Stigweed.
Hendon.
Mr. Stigweed had called. And we thought, who's the Stigweed? So what we'd done is sent all our records that we'd made in Australia and songs we'd written to NEMS, which was Brian Epstein's management company of the Beatles and Cilla Black and all that sort of thing. And Robert was the managing director, which we had never heard of him. But apparently they got a few drinks one night, him and Brian, and they started going through all the material and heard these tapes and records by us. And that's how we got sort of introduced to Robert Stigwood.
Was Robert Stigwood in the same mould as Brian Epstein?
Well, he was a managing director. I think Brian was more, he wasn't a brilliant businessman, Brian.
Brian had his own group, and I think that Robert had his own dream of having his own group like Brian. I think personally, I think that's what was really going on.
Brian wasn't interested in anybody but the Beatles.
And Robert also felt the fact that Brian was the influence at NEMS, and everything sort of revolved around Brian Epstein. And I think Robert wanted to have his own organisation and wanted it to orbit around the Robert Stigwood organisation. Eventually, that's what happened. He had Cream and us. Yeah.
The first few singles were quite Beatlesque, so I suppose that was really, as you were half men, half boys, seeking an influence. That was what you wanted to be, if it was anything.
What excited us, what we liked about the Beatles was that they were, unlike other people, they were extremely inventive and unafraid. And that's what inspired us. It wasn't necessarily following a pop group so much as we were songwriters.
We were inspired by their innovation, their sense of innovation.
New York mining disaster, 1941.
Ta-da.
As you were short on experiences in life, were you short on topics for writing songs?
We
were a bit short on avalanches, but
no, quite the contrary. I think. May I?
Yes,
Go on up, Barry.
When we first emigrated to Australia, you've got to remember that 3 young kids and a family emigrating to Australia, we saw parts of the world that a lot of children at that age don't see. We saw the pyramids. We were in Egypt, India. So I think anyway that a lot of our songwriting as we got older were influenced by things we saw as children.
In the event of something happening to me, there is something I would like you all to see. It's just a photograph of someone that I knew. Have you seen my wife, Mr. Jones? Do you know what it's like on the outside? Don't go talking too loud, you'll cause a landslide, Mr. Jones. I keep straining my ears to hear a sound. Maybe someone is digging underground. Or have they given up and all gone home to bed, thinking those who once existed must be dead? Have you seen my wife, Mr. Jones? Do you know what it's like on the outside? Don't go talking too loud, you'll cause a landslide, Mr. Jones. In the event of something happening to me, there is something I would like you all to see. It's just a photograph of someone that I knew. Have you seen my wife, Mr. Jones? Do you know what it's like on the outside? Don't go talking too loud, you'll cause a landslide, Mr. Jones.
New York mining disaster, 1941.
That was a product of a very strong imagination, written in the basement of Polydor Records. In the basement, it was very echoey, and it was because, you know, at that age...
on the stairs.
It was the stairs. We had the elevator shaft.
Yeah.
It had this great echo, and it reminded you of a mine. I remember also previous before that, there was the Aberfan mining disaster.
It was really based on the Aberfan mining disaster, yeah.
How did you cope with being thrust into the limelight, 66,
Ooh, well,
67?
thrust as well, it's good, isn't it?
Yes.
I thought you'd enjoy that one, yeah.
Into the limelight.
Swinging London and all that.
Well, it was a great experience for me particularly because I mean when we lived in Sydney and I'd go down the streets and see newsstands, I'd see Beatle books, the fan club books and all that and what they were wearing and the guitars they were using and whatever. And 5 months after we were in England, I was getting drunk with them in a club. And this to me was weird. That was with John and then Cream were playing live that night. And it was like, here I was sitting in this room and getting drunk with them. And it was with Keith Moon and all these people. These are all people we'd seen from afar in Australia. You know, they were so distant. And then here I am.
They were lying on the floor and they were still distant.
Yes.
It was an extremely exciting period, and we're still happy that we saw it.
Oh, yeah.
Witnessed it.
And that
Things moved very
was
fast for us when we landed in February in the UK. When by March we were making our first record under the... guidance. That's the word I was looking for, searching, yes. Robert Stigwood. And when he started getting interested in us, things moved very fast. And it was in the May, we had our first single out in the UK and the US. New Humanitas, of course, one we just played.
None of the material of the time seemed to be burdened or enlightened by psychedelia.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Yes,
were you touched?
It wasn't burdened.
Yeah, we were touched by psychedelia.
Slightly, there was a hint of
And we
flower.
told him about it too.
We don't, but we're quite honest, we don't mention the word flowers and stuff like that. We don't say, you know...
We never did
flowers.
use the word flower power or anything like that in our songs. In the way we never used the word disco, actually, in our songs. I was wrong.
But we made, in Massachusetts, we make no reference to the actual movement or psychedelia, as you so rightly.
I think what we've always, as you so rightly pointed out, but I think what we've always done is try to reflect what's gone on around us in life. That's all. And maybe that's why there's a disco period.
But other writers, which we'll come to later, but other writers derived actually inspiration from taking LSD and mushrooms and all these sort of psychedelic drugs.
Oh,
Did that touch your songwriting?
Oh, I see. No, we never took LSD, and we could never get the mushrooms. It was very difficult.
Yeah, they weren't growing them. It's hard to grow them in London.
It's just extremely hard to grow them. We
never even seen LSD.
I remember being confronted with a mescaline tablet.
With a what?
Is that a big tablet?
As opposed to a feminine one.
Somebody said we should take it. It's like psychedelic.
Here, you should take this.
And I remember us pondering in a toilet over a loo as to whether to take it or throw it down the toilet, and we actually threw it down the toilet.
So many a lesson can be drawn from this for anybody listening. That's
especially if you've got
don't
toilets.
stand together.
Don't hang around lavatories thinking about whether to take things or not.
So you were squeaky, clean-living boys?
Well, we were clean, but we didn't squeak.
No, I mean, I drank. I mean, drink was my...
Morris squeaked a bit.
Morris remembers nothing of this.
No, we had a period where it was like pilly, potty and pissy. And it was like... I was pissy, so... And we went through that period, but nothing like heavy. Nothing...
Yeah.
I mean, to me, alcohol's heavy.
Yeah, how long did that last for you, Morris, then?
Till 1980.
Till 1980?
Yeah,
a long time.
1980.
Yeah.
And now you're without a drink for 10 years, which is
At least 2 hours.
It'll be in next August, it'll be 10 years.
He's done well.
And to be off 10 years is
I found
an achievement.
Giving up smoking is harder for me. It's really weird. That's what I'm trying to do
very
now.
Strong,
I'm trying to
very
cut
strong
down.
drug.
Yeah.
Tobacco.
So in actual fact, apart from being very determined in the music business, starting when we did, a lot of musicians did have a lot of trouble with drugs and drink.
Oh, yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
It became all right, you see. It became, in general, the word was yes. It was okay to take drugs. And I think a lot of people have something to answer for there. Probably the Beatles as well. I think a lot of artists were too open about the fact that they were taking LSD and that it was a good thing. And
but it was also,
in hindsight, it's wrong. At the time, it may not have... It was hip.
Everybody was doing it. It was hip. It was a thing to do.
Massachusetts came up when we first visited New York for the first time on a promo trip. And we sort of saw a lot of that kind of love power and psychedelia going on around us for the first time. And Massachusetts became our sort of slight objection to that. We were saying the lights went out in Massachusetts because people went to San Francisco. And we were giving the opposite view, that love can literally be wherever you are. You don't have to travel somewhere to find it. That's the only time we ever sort of wrote anything about flower power. Okay. Do it once for us.
Stand up. Maybe we should stand up to do some of these songs. It's easier when you stand up, yeah, to do high notes.
It's fine. Okay.
Okay, let's do it.
Right.
Feel I'm going back to Massachusetts. Something's telling me I must go home. And the lights all went down in Massachusetts the day I left her standing on her own, trying to hitch a ride to San Francisco. Gotta do the things I wanna do. And the lights all went down in Massachusetts. And Massachusetts is one place I have seen. I will remember Massachusetts. I remember that.
This period we're talking about at the moment, the late 60s, what was the balance of power in the group like then?
Well, it was pretty distorted because we all reached a point in our lives where we became individually orientated. We were growing up, and the sort of teenage young man came out in all of us. And I think it happens to most groups, and probably did at that time, where everybody thought they were the leader, or every individual in a group thought they were the reason the group was successful.
Particularly if the manager kept telling them that.
And the manager sort of, if the manager isn't careful and tries to make every member of the group feel really good about themselves, then that can cause stress within the group as well. And not to mention girlfriends or wives within every group. Once women come into it, all kinds of perspectives change, and you get this friction, which is masculine probably, part of growing up, and it's very difficult to be three brothers working together, and it's also difficult to be a group even if you're not brothers. So for us, it was the perspective was pretty distorted for a while, and we all bought too much things, and we all spent too much money. And,
but say when somebody heard Words, which was you singing, maybe they thought, well, Barry's the leader of the group.
Well, when they hear I started a joke from Robin, they might think the same thing about Robin or Massachusetts.
Yeah, I think it's just that
we were proud of the fact that we had more than one lead voice to use.
Yeah, we were a group using lead voices in turns, and I think that could have been a confusing thing, but it's happened with other groups, happened with Fleetwood Mac. The Beatles were using Lennon and McCartney as two different vocalists, so it's very hard to even know who led them.
What about the creative force? Has that shifted and changed through the years? Yes. Who's been the most at the front, as it were, as a driving force, as a creative force?
I think it varies from time to time with each of us.
I don't think it's changed course. I think we're all pretty much the same type of people we were then, except that all of our abilities have sort of expanded. It's just, you just grow older and you get better. All the things that Morris did when he was a kid, like he'd play a bit of guitar, he'd play a bit of keyboards, now he's an absolute expert in all those areas. And the technology of those keyboards, he's grown completely into somebody that
I've always been a technical nut.
Very musically oriented, knows what he's doing.
And he's always liked to experiment.
Yeah.
From a very early age, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, take a song like Words. I remember the genesis of this song. The songwriting process, I think, is always interesting for anyone who even tinkers around with a guitar.
The writing process on Words, you're talking about a song that came up with by me, so it wasn't where we all structured together and sat together.
Right.
It was an idea that came to me at Adams Row, where Robert Stigwood lived, and I was on my own with a guitar at the time, and it's happened to all three of us the same way.
And I was playing the piano in the studio, wasn't it? We had that great sound, and you went, that's a beautiful sound, and you came down, started singing it around the piano, and we started working out the arrangement.
Smile, an everlasting smile. Her smile can bring you near to me. Don't ever let me find you gone, 'cause that would bring a tear to me. This world has lost its glory. Let's start a brand new story now, my love. Right now, there'll be no other time, and I can show you how, my love. Talk in everlasting words and dedicate them all to me, and I will give you all my life. I'm here if you should call to me. You think that I don't even mean a single word I say. It's only words, and words are all I have to take your heart away. Words are all I have to take your heart away.
I think, Morris, you were quoted quite recently as saying we were morbid little sods at the time.
No, I don't think. I don't know where that.
Yeah, I think you've used that expression. Yeah, that we tended to dip into the dawdling, into the dawdling, into sort of very sad songs.
With message and things like that. Yeah. So, well, that was about a man going to the chair, you know.
One verse and one chorus on this.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a very long song.
3, 4.
The preacher talked with me and he smiled. Said, come and walk with me. Come and walk one more mile. Now for once in your life you're alone, but you ain't got a dime. There's no time on the phone. I just gotta get a message to you. Hold on, hold on.
He gets fried.
I think Message actually was a sort of tongue-in-cheek song. I don't think it was that morbid, even though it was a guy being fried.
No.
It was,
we never quite intended to upset everybody.
Thinking people on death row.
With all the greatest respect, I don't think we're really talking of anything. I don't think we're actually making a morbid issue about it. However, I do think we have been morbid on other songs.
Yes,
not morbid in the sense of cutting throats and things like
Reflective.
that. But in
sad sometimes,
yeah,
maybe.
melancholy is the word.
Lonely or things like that.
We did one about Brian Epstein once that was morbid. Remember?
Summer of His Years. That was that one.
Yes, in the summer of his years.
But anyway, that's another song. But the fact is, yes, we were slightly, in our earlier phase, we were more melancholic. Not depressive,
We've become
but
melancholic. How Can You Mend a Broken Heart was quite a melancholic song. That was a very big hit for us in America.
And that's a lovely song, which came after the big rift, didn't it?
Yeah, the big bust-up, yeah.
Which we must talk about.
Everybody asks us about this, and we don't want to give the same answer again.
Sure.
The same thing. So let's make an effort to decipher it a bit. The breakup itself.
Yeah. What was?
Okay.
How did it start? You talked about various tensions, and you were all growing up, and you were sort of turning into men. It was a male thing. It was a power thing. But you, Robin, and Barry, you sort of communicated with each other through lawyers, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, that's true. Well, I'll tell you how it began.
Right.
It began with us individually doing interviews with newspapers like Disc and the NME, and what they would do is they would draw from you, as was their wont. They would draw from you a comment about your brother that may be a negative one. They will then go, in those times, they would then go to the other brother and say, did you know that your brother said this about you? What do you have to say to that? So they would create that argument within the press because it was interesting reading.
They never came to me.
Yeah, that's what it was. It was still an older ego thing, wasn't it?
Were you without an ego at the time, Maurice? Were you just let them get on with it?
Maurice wasn't born with an ego.
Maurice was almost a middleman. It was really between me and Robin.
I was sort of like just going on about things. And I got to Australia with my then wife, Lou, and we got to Australia, and I got a phone call from Robert saying that the group had broken up. And I went, you mean I'm a Bee Gee?
You've gone 12,000 miles to find out that?
Robert, our manager, was also involved in the breakup, and that's something that nobody ever mentions. And I think, he has to be honest about it these days, you know.
It's like you don't need the other brothers, it's all right.
He played favourites too. And that can be destructive within the group. So it was like a popularity contest, you know. And I'm sure it's happened with a lot of groups. But we all grew apart. We all just grew apart because of that kind of not staggering success, but we'd never been famous before. We have a syndrome. We call it that now, first fame. Yeah. But we call it. Other people haven't been around as long as we have, don't understand that. But to us, when we saw George Michael at the PRS, was it the PRS?
It was the
awards.
PRS
dinner,
Awards, yeah.
2 or 3 years back with a bottle of wine in his hand, our opinion of that was first fame.
Here we go.
We have a perspective on it now.
But you're in a unique position to opine on that because you've had first fame and you've lost it. And
we've lost it.
Yeah.
And
Not just lasted, we've lost it as well and got it back.
Yeah.
And that's when you get an education about the business you're in, because the people that all love you when you have first fame disappear pretty quickly when you lose first fame. And then when you get it back, if you work hard enough and you manage to attain that kind of fame again, the people that stuck around you when you lost the first fame, they're still with you.
You discover who your friends are.
You discover who really belongs with you and who works, who really functions and believes in you.
What sort of people were hangers-on then? What sort of people were there? The people who you lost immediately when you lost that first fame?
Lawyers, politicians, judges.
What do they want from you?
Yes,
but what types of people did they want?
They still exist today. They get attached to artists and they stick around, and their job looks like that of a personal assistant but isn't really. And you get a lot of that. That's the best way to describe them. They're the gang. They're the entourage. They're part of the entourage. They're always good for a laugh. What we were doing then, we were learning about the business we were in. And now we pretty much know, we have all kinds of perspectives about the business we're in, about the people, about the types of people. And there are types of people.
The reconciliation record was How Can You Mend a Broken Heart?
That's right. Yeah.
In 1971.
We actually got two that day. There was Lonely Days and then How Can You Mend a Broken Heart. And Lonely Days was our first #1 in America, and How Can You Mend a Broken Heart followed that up as our second #1.
This sort of has some significance, this song, because we'd broken up, and it's about 15 months later, and we just come back together again. We just come back together again.
I'm filling up.
And
play the bloody song.
Okay, it goes something like this. 3, 4.
I can think of younger days when living for my life was everything a man could want to do. I could never see tomorrow. No one said a word about the sorrow. How can you mend a broken heart?
How can you stop the rain from falling down? How can you stop the sun from shining? What makes the world go round?
And how can you mend this broken man? How can a loser ever win? Please help me mend my broken heart, and let me live
Was it good to get back together again? Did you suddenly think, well, why did we bother with all that nonsense?
We were still very wary with each other because we'd been put back together mechanically because the Robert Stigwood organisation was going public. And it was going to be a public company in England, and we were still fighting, basically.
It didn't look good, you know.
And they were looking to solidify all of their product because they were going public. If you're going to invest in an organisation, you need to know that all the artists in that organisation are all in one piece and are willing to make records and create hit records and make money. And that's what they were doing, going public. And we were in shambles as an act and as a product. So there was a genuine business political effort made to bring us together so that we could be there at that prospectus meeting when the company went public.
Yeah.
And we did come together unbeknownst to because we wanted to.
Yeah.
But we all knew inside it wasn't really because our personal differences had been patched up. That was going to take time.
All the lawyers and people were talking, and the three of us had already...
We were all looking at each other saying,
you know.
but we're still fighting, aren't we?
Yeah, are we supposed to be still fighting?
You know, it was very strange, yeah. But we're all back together. How did we do
you
it?
asked your lawyer, am I still fighting? Not for the moment.
Yeah, right. Have we settled? You know. Very strange, very bizarre times.
Yeah.
You know.
And you got on a fairly firm footing with each other again. And 1972 saw a marvellous hit, Run to Me.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
Which was... Did you play that one on the old...
Oh, yes.
Can you strum that one for us?
Yes, we would, with great pleasure. Yeah, and, okay, we'll, the one you mentioned, Run to Me, we'll give that a shot. It's a bit difficult, but we'll try it. We will write these things.
If ever you got rain in your heart, someone has hurt you and torn you apart. Am I unwise to open up your eyes to love? And when you got nothing to lose, nothing to pay for, and nothing to choose, am I unwise to open up your eyes to love? Run to me whenever you're lonely. To run to me if you need a shoulder. Now and then you'll need someone older. So darling, you run to me. Down.
Barry Manilow had a version of that not so long ago.
Yeah, with Dionne Warwick, yeah.
Yeah, that's
I remember him catching us in a hotel somewhere and playing it to me during his British tour.
That's so much the case with Barry. Catching people.
Just before we actually leave the 1960s and get it well into the 70s, there's lots of interesting stuff to talk about there. Colin Peterson and Vince Maloney, those stalwarts of the Bee Gees when you were a five-piece. Whatever happened to them? I'm sure a lot of fans in the early days must wonder.
Well,
both moved, yeah.
Vince Maloney really was, he was with us for a couple of years, but he really wanted to go his own way. And Colin really just joined the band to keep him busy until he could get what he was a child film star called Smiley.
Yeah.
And he was very big in Australia. He was a kid actor, and he always wanted to act again. So he just more or less played along with us and to get enough money so he could go to RADA and do all that bit. Instead, he ended up going back to Australia, married Brian Epstein's secretary, Joanne.
That's right.
Went back to Australia, and Vince soon followed him. And Vince is over there now, a salesman, and I don't know what Colin's doing now.
So they're not touring Australia as the Bee Gees or anything like that?
That hasn't,
They came to our concert when we were there last year.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
And they enjoyed it, did they?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They were the only two in the audience that threw cabbages.
He wanted to be a film star just as well, just before we do leave the 60s. I'm sure everyone's got embarrassing moments in the 60s. I don't know if this is embarrassing or not, but Morris and Barry, you starred in Cucumber Castle, that film which is never... that film is never off television.
Oh, God, I know. We thought about that after we finished it.
I think Frankie Howard's just displeased.
Yeah.
One thing about that was...
Well, Frankie Howard meets the Bee Gees, I think you have to say that that's even worse. You can't really say that Cucumber Castle is bad.
Oh, the Sgt. Pepper film later on.
And the
Sergeant
Pepper film, we were basically just going through it trying to save Peter's life.
Was that what you mean by Frankie Howard meets the Bee Gees?
No, that was a special.
Was it?
Yeah, TV special.
ITV, yeah.
Well, shoot me down.
It opened up with us driving in this white
but
Bentley
fast
and running into Frankie on his bicycle, and he ends up on the bonnet of the car.
Yeah, we've got the video somewhere too, yeah.
He's a brilliant professional, Frankie, though, isn't he?
Oh, marvellous. But, I mean, you know, when you put Frankie out with the Bee Gees in 1968, you're asking for trouble.
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
So Cucumber Castle was the follow-up to that, incidentally.
Yeah, but it was fun working with Vincent Price and all those great people that were in it, you know. But we had a very camp director who completely fluffed everything up.
We just weren't in charge. We weren't in control of anything. I mean, we were the pop group, and the business ran itself around us. And Robert would put these people with us and say, you know, you're going to do a special with Frankie Howard. Oh, okay. We love Frankie Howard. We grew up with Frankie Howard. And you're going to work with Vincent Price. Oh, wow, we love Vincent Price. So none of these things seemed unreasonable. It all seemed like it should work. You know?
Well, Cucumber, we had Spike Milligan, Pat Coombs, Eleanor Bron.
Incredible.
Brilliant. But no Robin Gibb.
No, this is during the breakup.
No, this was during the breakup, yeah.
You must have looked on all that malarkey with some interest.
Well, he had a hit with Saved by the Bell.
Me and Morris went to cut that in Delane Lee Studios.
Yeah.
It's like Dave Davis, his solo record, isn't it? The Kinks played backing on it.
Yeah, I mean, where do you know?
And it wasn't like it was done on purpose, like, well, let's pretend to have a break and we'll go in and cut a record. It was actually all done quite innocently, thinking that we were split up, because Morris was in the middle of all this.
Right.
So, you know...
That's right.
I played the piano.
Keep him working, you know.
Well, that's right. Working.
It was all going on. Craziness.
The early 1970s, you lost popularity. Why? Why did people stop buying your records?
Well, I think probably the publicity over the breakup and the kind of negative sort of veil had been thrown over us, and
we
I
had
think
some very negative publicity on the breakup.
But don't forget, it was time to write off groups after they've had about 3 or 4 years. Most people sort of say in the media, well, that's enough of them, you know. And we had it done to us then. It was everybody in the media was sort of saying, well, that's probably the last we'll hear of the Bee Gees. They're finished, you know. And we'd never felt that way about ourselves, so it wasn't to be as far as we were concerned.
I think also when you have longevity of any kind, anybody that does have longevity, and this even includes people who have been around longer than us, like Cliff Richard, for instance, have always had these spells where people, and it certainly happened to Cliff in the 70s, where he just had a dry spell there where no one seemed to want to respond to him. Yeah. And I think you have to have that. If you're going to have a long career, you have to have those...
Yeah, I think Frank Sinatra actually went through a decade of complete isolation. Nobody really wanted to know. And it wasn't until From Here to Eternity he made a comeback and won an Academy Award. So he was actually finished at that point.
Did you think you'd ever regain that popularity, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we were always determined after we got back together again that we were going to... it happened actually
But that's not ego, you know.
No.
I mean, that's just the force by which we exist.
Determination.
Yeah.
Although we got our popularity back quicker in the States at that particular point than we did in Europe. And it took a little longer in Europe.
But who could have expected what happened?
Yeah, I know, we'll get on to that in a second. But just before Jive Talking, what were you doing in those, I don't know, 3 or 4 years? Wasn't chicken in a basket cabaret?
Well, because of the enormous... when the Labour government was in, the tax was so ridiculous, like 95% of the pound or something. So we had to move to the Isle of Man, where we were born. You know, a little place in the Irish Sea. And we went back there for 18 months, I think. Yeah. And then we went to Miami, and we cut the Mr. Natural album.
And Eric Clapton recommended 461 Ocean Boulevard.
Yeah.
Did you like your material from those days? Did you like what you were doing? Were you happy with it?
2 years on was pretty dubious, and To Whom It May Concern was relatively dubious.
I mean,
because
we
were still not getting on, so it was like...
We weren't getting on, and we were directionless at the time. We weren't being motivated by anyone. This was at the time when the Stigwood organisation was going public. He was absorbed with his stage shows in London and Broadway.
All this.
Robert actually turned into Jesus Christ Superstar. I mean, it was all that.
We just didn't... Well, we lost that feeling that we were being managed. Well, you have to have that feeling. You have to have somebody's there taking care of you. And it got to the point we never saw Robert. We saw Robert like once every 6 months.
You have to have that. You have to have that central focus point where somebody's on the phone every day.
Someone's really doing things for you.
You know, the plans being made, goals to be entertained.
Maybe Robert doesn't understand that to this day, but we missed him. We needed him there with us, you know.
That was important.
So we've got to about 1974, and we've got really to the brink of a new era as far as the Bee Gees are concerned. We're about to hear Jive Talking, but first I think the question must be asked. There was a sea change in music then, I suppose, a key change. And did you consciously adapt your music to what was happening? Did you look around you and say to yourself, things are moving here? Or did your music adapt itself and suddenly you fitted the scene?
We suddenly just fitted the scene. We've always fell in accidentally. I think what we made up our minds to do was to go back to certain music that we really loved, which is Like to Love Somebody, which was soul-orientated music or R&B-orientated music. And enough of the ballads already. We were sort of getting a bit tired of doing sad songs, and we reached the end of that feeling ourselves.
So in came the black influences.
Yeah. We wanted to. Our energy it was time for our energy to pick up.
Well, we had Arif Mardin, who produced the album with Jive Talkin on, which is called Main Course.
Back on course.
This explains particularly with Robert, because he actually sat on the beach at 461 Ocean Boulevard. The four of us actually sat on the beach, deciding what we were going to do with our career.
Yeah.
And how big it was going to be and what Robert was going to do. He actually came back to us, and it was great.
Yeah. What decisions were made?
Well, the promotion, new press people, all this sort of stuff that Robert knew how to handle well. And
we signed with Robert at that point.
Yeah.
And we were going to climb the mountain. Even though we'd already climbed the mountain and everyone thought we were finished. We actually felt that our real time hadn't come. Regardless of whether everyone else thought it had come and gone, we didn't believe it had actually come. So we carried on going.
But then at the same token, afterwards, they tried to talk us out of releasing Jive Talking as the first single. And we said, no.
Well, I don't think it wasn't an unhealthy argument. They were worried about the first one.
How about a bit of live talking?
You got it, Nick.
A bit. Yeah, we'll do a bit of that.
Yeah. Oh, so impromptu.
It's organic, isn't it?
We were once coming back from Criteria Studios one night, and we have to cross the same bridge every night during this album, Main Course album.
It's gone now, isn't it?
The bridge has probably gone by now, but when you go over this bridge, it makes a clickety-clickety type of noise, and it's rhythmic, and that's where the idea for the song came from. As we were going over this bridge, it went clickety-clickety-click. Okay, boys and girls.
This is how it goes.
And this is how it happened.
Please remember the bridge.
It's just your jive talking, telling me lies, yeah. Jive talking, in a disguise. Jive talking, so misunderstood, yeah. Jive talking, really know. Oh, my jive.
Yeah, up there.
Jive Talking, and the new Dionne came with the Main Course album with Arif Mardin. Now, he must have been important to come in as a producer.
Oh, yes.
It started with Mr. Natural.
That was the transition album, Mr. Natural.
Mr. Natural took us in the Main Course.
What Arif did, he produced Mr. Natural as well with us, and it was a team effort. But what he did was, he was actually drawing out what we loved the most. And he said, don't hide what you love. Don't try and do the things that you think people will love. Do what you love first. And he said, and the rest will take care of itself. Yeah. And he was right. When we started doing the things we love, which was R&B soul, which we were originally doing when we first came to England in some of our music.
I can't see nobody.
Yeah. He said, that's what you're best at. It's what you feel is what you're best at. And if you do what you're best at first and stay true to yourself, the rest will take care of itself.
And as a musician, he taught me things on the bass I didn't even know I could play.
How did he do that?
Well, he brought it out of me. he said, funk it up a bit more. And
he instills confidence in the musician.
And I was playing and Alan, Kendall, our lead guitarist and keyboard players, everybody, he brought out the best in them.
Mr. Natural itself wasn't the album to showcase all of that, but what it was a transition album. It was an album where Reeve sat down and said, this is not really the entire stuff that you should be doing, but I've seen what you want to do. And when you do make that album, it's got to be that way. It can't be like this.
That direction,
When you heard the main course album back, or when you knew that it was going to be an interesting album, that must have been a great feeling. Did you?
Well, I was at Atlantic Records when the final master of the album was being mastered. Reef was mastering it. Jerry Wexler was there, and we were in a little side room to the main studio where Cut the Cake was being recorded by the Average White Band.
Yeah, pick up the pieces.
And Reef was going from that room, cutting Cut the Cake with them, to the mastering of and the mixing of the course.
It wasn't mastering, it was mixing.
Yeah, and I was sitting in the mixing room, and people would just keep coming in and saying, what's that? All over the building, people just kept coming in. And it was then that we knew, people with great ears, Jerry Wexler, people like that saying, what is this?
It's on Broadway, is one of my favourite Bee Gees songs.
Oh, thank you, Dickie.
Do you like that one?
Yeah. No, it's one of my favourite.
I know you've told the story many times before about Saturday Night Fever. You thought it was just a film that was going nowhere.
Well, we had no idea. We were just doing our album in France, and Stayin' Alive, Night Fever, More Than a Woman, How Deep Is Your Love, If I Can't Have You, were the songs that we'd already laid down.
You must have been pleased with them.
Oh, yeah. This was just our new album. It was nothing to do with the film. We had no idea of this film, and Robert was making this movie. And he came to France, and he wanted 3 songs for the film. He picked How Deep, Stayin' Alive, and Night Fever. And then he came back to us for more, and then Tavares ended up doing More Than a Woman, and Yvonne Elliman ended up doing If I Can't Have You. And then John Travolta was rehearsing the dance number in the song to You Should Be Dancing, and they were waiting for Stayin' Alive for that. But John loved it so much, he asked the director, why don't we keep this in the picture? And that was a hit 2 years before, Fever. And Jive Talkin was also implemented into the film, which was a hit 3 years before. So all these songs came about, all of a sudden it was a big disco film. And we didn't even know the story. So to us, our new album had gone to this film, and we in turn mixed a live album.
We were supposed to be mixing a live album, that's what we were supposed to
Well, we ended up doing that because they took all our songs from the new album.
That's right.
So.
What was your impression the first time you saw the film?
Well, I wasn't completely blown away. I didn't think the film was good.
You didn't like it, Robin?
No, I don't even like it now.
None of us actually like dance movies anyway. We won't go and see them.
It wasn't the kind of film that I would go and watch. And even for the times, I didn't think it was a great film. I think it was just the ingredients that really came together for the times. And
it was a great marriage of music.
Obviously, it was a success, very commercial film. But it was not the kind of film that I would queue up and go and see. But then again, you know, I'm not the masses, and so...
When you went to see it, did you sense that it was going to be commercially successful?
The feeling around you was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, we were filming Sgt. Pepper, the film. We were on the set of Sgt. Pepper filming. We had one caravan. You know, they have those big caravan Winnebagels, they're called. Yeah. We had our Winnebagel between the three of us. And Peter Frampton, who had been this new rock superstar, had his own Winnebagel next to ours, right? And the Viva music, and all the security and all the thing, and we just had our own little caravan, and we didn't really want to be doing the film. We kept asking if we could be taken out. We didn't feel comfortable at all. We didn't know who we were in the film.
We didn't have names when it started.
You know, we just felt stupid.
It was a dreadful film.
It was
awful.
And you should have been a fly on the wall at some of the meetings before it. Anyway, we were shooting the film, and suddenly one day the dancers in the film, every lunch break, they'd suddenly start putting this music on, Viva, and dancing to it. In the studio, in the film studio. Yeah. And everyone would start dancing. And of course, we were not even the people on the bill that everyone should be noticing. And suddenly, everyone started looking at it.
And we all ended up with our own Winnebagels.
Like we suddenly had a caravan each.
The ADs, the assistant directors, were starting to be very nice, where before they were really nasty.
And then Robert called us in and says, "We're doing 1 million albums a week."
Wow.
And everybody was just sitting like this. Nobody could actually understand what was going on. Everyone had their hands on their heads saying, "This is incredible, this is incredible."
Well, you can tell by the way I use my walk, I'm a woman's man, no time to talk. Music loud, women walk, being kicked around since I was born. I'll never tolerate, that's okay, and you may look the other way, but we can try to understand and do your time to make no man. Whether you're a brother away, you're a mother, you're staying alive. Feel the city breaking and everybody shaking, and we're staying alive, staying alive. Staying alive, staying alive. Staying alive. Well, I've known you very well, seen you growing every day. I never really loved before, but now you take my breath away. Suddenly you're in my life, part of everything I do. You got me working day and night, just trying to keep a hold on you. Here in your arms I found my paradise, my only chance for happiness. And if I lose you now, I think I'll die. Oh, so you'll always be my baby. We can make it shine. We can take forever, just a minute at a time. More than a woman, more than a woman to me. More than a woman, more than a woman to me. It's in the ground, there is movement all around, there is something going out, and I can feel it. All the waves on the air, there is dancing out there. There's a vision, I can't steal it. Same woman, she moved through the night, she's in my mind and my soul. Just one finger, and the feeling is right. Feeling right, we ride. We know how to do it. Feeling right, we ride. We know how to show it. Nothing moves me tonight. Goes right on to the dawn. My woman, take me higher. My woman, keep me warm. What you doing in your bed? What you doing in your bed? You should be dancing, yeah. Dancing, yeah. What you doing in your bed? What you doing in your bed? You should be dancing, yeah. Dancing, yeah.
Saturday Night Fever So, right, all of a sudden you were absolutely priceless to the Sgt. Pepper film.
Well, it was the other way around. People think it was
Frampton.
Fever, then Sgt. Pepper. It wasn't. It was Sgt. Pepper, and then Fever broke out while we were filming Sgt. Pepper. Our whole tiny world turned into a goldfish bowl.
We became important to the film, and it also Robert had to finish the film with us in it, because he was contracted to finish the film at that point.
But there was about 3 points that we literally begged to be taken out of the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we didn't do as much harm as we thought it did, but it did Peter a lot of harm.
You know.
I mean, we were in Culver City, as I say, inside these studios, and we didn't know what was going on out there. How Deep Is Your Love was released a month before the film came out. And
We thought we'd been big before.
Yeah.
We didn't realise
Nothing like that.
that you could reach this stage.
You became one of the definitive sound of the 1970s in one fell swoop, didn't you? How Deep Is Your Love? A song that must have been the soundtrack to A Million Last Dances, A Million Romances. What a great song. How did that come about?
It came about in France during the session. The idea I had was, and I sang that to Robin and Morris, and we worked it out all in one night as to what it really was. The title, How Deep Is Your Love, we thought was perfect because of all the connotations involved in that sentence. And that was simply it.
Your eyes in the morning sun, I feel you touch me in the pouring rain. And the moment that you wander far from me, I wanna feel you in my arms again. And you come to me on a summer breeze, keep me warm in your love, then you softly leave. And it's me you need to show. How deep is your love? Is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn, 'cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down when they all should let us be. We belong to you and me. I believe in you. You know the door to my very soul. You're the light in my deepest, darkest doubt. You're my savior when I'm old. And you may not think I care for you when you know down inside that I really do. And it's me you need to show. How deep is your love? Is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn, 'cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down when they all should let us be. We belong to you and me. How deep is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn, 'cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down when they all should let us be. We belong to you and me.
Somebody sued us and said we stole the song.
That's right.
About 5 years later, yeah.
But you were vindicated.
Oh, yeah.
eventually, we lost the first round because they found us guilty for some reason, and then the judge overturned it.
The jury found us guilty, which was an incredible experience.
Did you go to the court case?
Oh yeah,
The
there's a
song?
big monopoly of lawyers from New York that had done all this, and the judge knew it was a scam from the word go.
But it was interesting. To be
was.
found guilty by a jury in a court of law and be innocent is an incredible experience.
It makes you think of how many innocent people are in that lockup, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the other song like?
It's actually a piano exercise.
It was just a piece of melody that resembled ours a little bit. But the fact that there were two different people who came up with this idea halfway around the world from each other, a new step was created in the law. You now have to prove that the other person had to have access to your idea before they could have taken
Striking
it.
similarity.
We had no access to this person's idea. We couldn't possibly have taken it. You know?
Must have been very annoying.
In fact, it sounded more like from me to you.
What was heartbreaking was the 6 months waiting to be vindicated by the judge, and it took 6 months, and we were guilty for 6 months. And when we were found innocent, nobody publicised it, so that was even, devastating, you know.
Especially when you hear things on the radio that are obviously direct lips and nothing's done about it.
That's right, yeah.
People have said nice things to us since because we fought. Billy Joel said, I wish I'd fought a case that I was sued for. I was innocent, but I settled, and I wish I'd fought. And you guys, because you fought, now every time someone gets sued, when they're innocent, they don't settle, they fight.
We've made the legal books.
And Michael Jackson also said the same thing, because he's been sued. You fight.
He was sued for that girl.
You don't pay off people to do
and
that.
Mick Jagger fought, didn't he, as well?
Yeah.
You go on quite a bit about how the Saturday Night Fever phenomenon has been a millstone around your neck.
I mean, our philosophy now is that we can't take ourselves that seriously. It's all music, and we enjoyed making the records. What people call it and how they end up forming an opinion on you is something you have no control over. And you just have to go on making the music you believe in. You can't worry about whether Saturday Night Fever is a millstone or not. It was wonderful fun, and it was a great high.
Well, the whole world wanted to dance, you know.
And we don't really want to live like that 24 hours a day.
Everyone wanted to dance and point at the ceiling, didn't
Well,
they?
they all wanted to be John Travolta, you know.
Let's be clear here. We never did point at the ceiling.
Yes, and we never wore white suits and black shirts.
I'm sure I must have seen you wearing white suits.
Never did.
No,
No, you have. Yes, you have.
No,
I was with
white
Andy at the
suits.
Billboard Awards. All 4 of us wore white suits.
I didn't.
Yes, you did.
No, the
It's
picture that
allowed.
was used on the front of the Fever album, we were wearing white shirts and that. but we
The
weren't
medallion.
wearing-
Let's not get bogged down in white suits.
No.
I mean,
You can do.
it's inevitable, though, when you have success as gargantuan as that, it's inevitable that there's going to be... It happens to everyone who's that successful, detractors. The backlash is just as sure as
you can't do
the
without
sun
critics,
comes
you
up
can't,
in the
Well,
morning.
a lot of people, too, are making records that cheapened it. Like
Heebie-jeebies.
Village People and Disco
Well, no,
Duck.
We don't mind being copied. That's flattering. But I think what Morris meant was there were people like the Village People.
Oh, yes.
There were people making records that were disco records in the
That
true
were really
sense.
pathetic.
They had these sort
really-
of funny sounds like...
Oh, those,
Yeah.
Ring my bell.
So everyone was getting fed up, and they all thought it was our fault. You know?
You never had that in any of
Never
your
had a
Any of
do
them.
on any of our records, no.
Because we were never conscious of the fact that we were actually cutting disco records. We were doing what we would describe at the time as white, blue-eyed R&B soul.
Dance music in New
Progressive
York.
R&B.
we thought we were being influenced by Tamla Motown.
And the
By Stax.
stylistics.
And the black music of the times
Yeah.
that we were living in. We never sat down and said, let's write a disco record and get people dancing in clubs. We never thought of it like that. There were people who did do that.
This was
and
a
we didn't.
social thing, not the Bee Gees thing. It was a social thing worldwide. Everybody suddenly wanted to dance a bit more. There were people in their 50s, married couples, who were suddenly taking dancing lessons. Do you remember that? People don't take dancing lessons even now. But in those days, in the late 70s, everyone started doing it, you know. And
People were going to the film again and again to try and copy Travolta's dance, try and get all the steps.
Now,
right.
is that something that we should be penalised for? We didn't make those people do that.
And you've got to remember,
it was a social thing.
Some of the big songs out of Fever were #1 records by us 2 years before the film came out. Jive Talkin, You Should Be Dancing.
But you went through a period of being slightly sensitive about it all, but there's no need for it anymore because the 70s is quite fashionable again, isn't it?
Yeah,
Apparently.
Ridiculous.
yeah.
You know,
I think now we can be more constructive about
we can be
it.
philosophical about it.
As long as bells don't come back, I'm very happy.
Much heaven no more. It's much harder to come by. I'm waiting in line. Nobody gets too much love anymore. It's as high as a mountain and harder to climb. Ooh, you and me, girl, got a lot of love in store. And it flows through you, and it flows through me, and I love you so much more.
as you were more successful, did that become a very fertile period as regards to your creativity?
Success creates energy. And we were very fortunate right through the Spirits Having Flown album that we were pretty much #1 in the charts the whole time we were making the Spirits Having Flown album from previous material, including material from Andy, from Samantha
Sang, yeah. Yvonne.
There was a lot of records we made around that period, not just the Fever album, that were very successful.
Do you think you'll be remembered as performers and singers or as songwriters?
I hope we're remembered as songwriters.
That's more important to you?
Yeah. It's our craft, that's what we do. We also harmonise pretty well. We're a harmony group, you know, and we're proud of that. And we know that's our sound, and we know people react to that. We don't quite know why, but it's a nice sound to us. We have a nice vocal blend, and probably because we're brothers. There's the same tonal thing there. And maybe because we're from the north of England, which is why the Beatles sounded a certain way, you know.
You talk all through this interview so far, Robert Stigwood's name has been omnipresent. Do you miss him now that you're no longer involved?
Of course we miss him. I think there's no way you can say no. It doesn't matter if you have a new manager or if you have a manager today. Robert Stigwood was pretty much the manager's manager.
He was excellent.
He was excellent.
How did the split come about?
The lawyers were the people that were fighting the battle, and
there was a total misunderstanding, and we patched it up. We made friends with each other, and at that time RSO was folding up anyway as a record company. And everybody was parting ways, and it was just that time where everybody was moving on, and I think it was the right thing to do. Robert didn't really feel like he wanted to keep managing artists all the time, and we
knew that he was distracted by so many other things at that point in his life, and
there are other things he personally wants to do with his life.
Did you feel all strong enough and by this stage mature enough to handle the whole thing on your own now, or to handle it without him?
At that point, no, chaos ensued. We didn't really put out an album for about 5 years.
I think after that, with Polydor and RSO splitting, and Robert wanting to do personal things with his life, and we coming off the back of all this huge chaos, we needed to clean our heads out. We needed a break. We just wanted to concentrate on writing and producing other people, which we did.
We were locked in legal battle with our record company and with our manager.
We couldn't put a record out.
If we'd put a record out, we had no team of experts to make sure that record was treated properly. And consequently, Living Eyes was a flop. And we maintain to this day that that's the reason it was, because it simply wasn't worked and we shouldn't have delivered it. So for 5 years, there was pretty much chaos.
It's terrible when that happens in
we're
music,
not the only people that happens to.
Legal wrangles.
That's right.
Get in the way of making music.
We had to do was, although we enjoyed it, was write and produce for other people for another 5 or 6 years. It was the only thing we could do, and it didn't do us any harm.
But the real truth was we couldn't put a record out.
But ultimately, I think it did enhance your reputation, because some very memorable pop came out of that.
But there were a lot of people said, why aren't you putting out a record of the Bee Gees? Why do you keep doing this other stuff for other people? You should be singing Islands in the Street.
But your style shone through all those recordings.
But we couldn't tell them it's because of our legal battle. We can't do those songs.
I know what you're saying, though. Yeah, it was very influenced by us, you know, all the songs, like Heartbreaker and...
So it was like Dionne Warwick with the Bee Gees, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember going home and thinking, God, we should be recording this song.
Yeah, let's just do it.
Okay. Why didn't you? Okay, let's get the cue. That's a short cue. Here we go.
Why didn't you add to the heartbreaker? Is it a lesson that I never knew? Suddenly everything I ever wanted, my love for you. Why do you hide. This world man, not you and I. My love is stronger than the universe. My soul is crying for you, and that cannot be reversed. You made the rules, and you could not see. You made a life out of hurting me. Out of my mind, I am held by the power of you, love. Tell me, when do we try? Or should we say goodbye? Why do you have to be a heartbreaker when I was being what you want me to be? Suddenly everything I ever wanted has passed me by.
Dionne Warwick's a thorough professional.
Even if she did say it was the blandest album she'd ever made.
No.
She didn't say that,
She did, yeah. It was the most
She's
successful
already,
album.
she's already said that she was wrong about that.
Yeah, because Heartbreaker is a classic pop record.
Well, she said that. She said she doesn't know how to pick her hits.
Heartbreaker still cracks
fact,
out of the radio.
I will go as far as to say that I spoke to Dionne Warwick about 4 days ago. And she was asking us if we had any material for her, and that once again she'd been wrong about Heartbreaker, and she really felt bad about that. And did we have anything?
Taken 8 years to tell you this.
Oh no, she's told me that before.
Yeah.
What we're most proud of is that just about every record we made with all those people set some sort of record for that artist.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I think Dionne Warwick had the biggest album of her career in Europe with that album. Diana Ross had the biggest single of her career with Chain Reaction in Europe.
You said at the time you doubted whether you'd be working with her again. Was it difficult working with Diana Ross? With Diana Ross?
Diana Ross, it's only difficult because she's very much in control of her own destiny, and it's very difficult to work with an artist who is very single-minded like that.
But you're single-minded, aren't you?
Yeah, well, that's why there's a clash. And it was okay.
You took a mystery and made me want it. You got a pedestal and put me on it. You made me love you out of feeling nothing. Something that you do. And I was there not dancing with anyone. You took a little, then you took me over. You set your mark on stealing my heart away. Trying anything for you. I'm in the middle of a chain reaction. You give me all the after midnight action. I wanna get you where I can let you make all that love to me. I'm on a journey for the inspiration to anywhere, and there ain't no salvation. Need you to get me nearer to you so you can set me free. We talk about love, love, love. Talk about love. We talk about love, love, love. We talk about love. You make me tremble when your hand moves lower. You taste a little, then you swallow slow. Nature has a way of yielding treasure, pleasure made for you. Oh, you got a plan, your future is on the run. Shine a light for the whole world over. You never find your love if you hide away, crying, dying. All you gotta do is get in the middle of a chain reaction. You get a medal when you're lost in action. Gonna get your love, ready for the sweet sensation, instant radiation.
What's difficult about Diana Ross that was easy about Barbra Streisand?
Barbra Streisand is thoroughly focused on what she's doing at the time. Diana Ross is a woman of many parts, and I think that it's not really a criticism, but she concentrates on about a dozen things at once.
What, in the studio she gets confused or
Well,
what?
she might be hosting the Academy Awards the same week as she's doing her vocals, and you won't see her because she's at rehearsals and she should be singing. So you've got all this stuff going on. Barbara doesn't function that
Well, some
way.
people would call it unprofessional, wouldn't they?
I wouldn't call it unprofessional. I wouldn't have the right to call it unprofessional. This woman was having hits when I was having my diapers changed. I'm not I'm not going to have the audacity to say that Diana Ross is unprofessional. All I'm saying was it wasn't comfortable. Barbara was totally focused. and studying the songs and learning the songs. As being a record producer, when you put the other hat on, it's very frustrating to see that the artist doesn't always learn the songs when they're supposed to be recording them.
Yeah, Kenny was the same. Yeah.
It's quite frustrating.
He sent all the songs, and when he came to start singing, he didn't know the words. And
Kenny Rogers didn't know the words, no?
Well, no, the fact that they have to have a piece of paper in front of them, and they've been working on this album with you for 3 months, and they haven't actually learnt the songs. You think, you know, if I was the artist and you were the producer, I'd be at home memorising these words and making sure that I didn't have to read when I sang, because it's a different thing when you read and sing. Come on, I don't have to do it. You run through it a few times, we just do it, yeah.
Well, he carries it out.
Yeah, he can, if he does it enough times, he'll warm up.
Islands in the stream, that is what we are. No one in between. How can we be wrong? Sail away with me to another world, and we rely on each other's heart. From one lover to another.
Absolutely marvellous.
Wasn't it? Baby, when I met you, there was peace unknown. I set out to get you with a fine-tooth comb. I was soft inside. There was something going on. You do something to me that I can't explain. Closer and I feel no pain. Every beat of my heart, we got something going on. Tender love is blind, it requires a dedication. All this love we feel needs no conversation. We light it together, making love with each other. What we are, no one in between. How can we be wrong? Sail away with me to another world, and we rely on each other. From one lover to another.
At the time, you were so successful with other people, producing, writing for, and I suppose orchestrating, generally supervising their projects. You must have had a few phone calls from people who were maybe on the skids a little bit saying, hello boys, can you do me an album?
Yeah, well, from a lot of artists that it would be totally unfair to mention.
Oh sure, I am not, listen, it's New Year's Day.
Can't do that.
It's New Year's Day, I wouldn't ask.
It's a new beginning.
Right.
Did you frequently have to say no?
Yes.
Only when we've been doing our own stuff, yeah.
Frequently we've had to say no over the years simply because we were too busy. We're still saying no to people today because we're doing something. We just don't have the time to do those other things.
Well, after doing Down to Ross, we thought it's time for us, you know, and we just concentrate on ourselves for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And
what we really want ultimately is our own record label, because all that stuff is like energy we're putting out with different artists and writing and producing different people at different times, that we should be able to utilize that somehow to help young artists, you know, and to put that behind younger people growing up and giving them some experience.
You care about that, and is that a genuine...
Oh, yes.
Well, yeah, because we've learned a lot. There's a lot of years of experience that we can teach younger people, or we can at least guide younger people a little bit.
Save them from some of the pitfalls, you know, that's out there.
Yeah, in business, and also about music. Would you teach them the art? Can you teach somebody the art and craft of songwriting?
No, I don't think so.
You can teach somebody the
talent
craft,
has to
you
be
can't
there.
teach somebody the art. That's born in you.
It's like teaching someone to sing, you say. You can teach somebody to sing the technique of singing if they've already got a voice. But you can't teach somebody who hasn't got a voice to sing. They've got to have it there first, and then you teach them technique. Not that we've ever been taught any of those things, but you do have to really have a voice to start with.
I mean, anybody can write a song, but whether it's good or not is another thing. You know, it's got to be...
And the little things that you do with songs, the little tricks, the little games that you play verbally with lyrics, and how you enhance a chorus and how you come down again for a verse. All these little tricks are something you learned in 25 years and not something you learn in 5 years.
Talking of little tricks, there's something as...
Careful.
ostensibly, Robin, as simple as a drum sound can make a record. We move on to You Win Again. Now, my producer, but we were discussing this as we were coming to the studio here, actually, today. My producer, Paul, and I were discussing this record.
Yeah, we remember
because
I'm not sure about the intro.
You can't drop that one too far.
I think you say, I'm not sure about the intro.
He's not a million miles away from here at the moment. But he was saying, he said, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, to quote him, when I first heard You Win Again, I said they will have to remix it. That drum sound is far too loud. And a lot of people did say that about the record. And then it suddenly made sense. Now, that drum sound is fascinating. Why was it Why do you put it initially so strange and so high in the mix? I don't know what the technical expression would be.
Well, loud.
Yeah.
In fact, that record wouldn't sound as good, actually, if we took that drum sound away. It would be still a good song, I think, but I still think you'd miss the atmosphere.
It's a trick, though, isn't it? It's a trick.
Well, it's an intense... It's
a stomp, we call it. It
all started, but it's a mixture of 20 different sounds, you know.
It really draws the listener in. It starts with nothing, and it's you know, it was again something we wanted to do that was still different to what other people were doing. Just something off the wall that started the song and went through the song. But yet still had a commercial availability about it.
What do you mean it was, Barry? It was a mixture of 20 different sounds?
Well, Morris concocted 20 different drum sounds to create one.
Yeah. Oh, the technical wizard, Morris, of course.
Yeah.
No, we did it in my garage on the demo, and that's the original stomp.
And he'd keep adding something, and we nodded Robin and Bieber going, yeah? And then he'd add something else, and we'd go, yeah? Yeah! And then it suddenly hit, this is the sound. That drum sound is it. Don't touch a thing.
Couldn't be what everybody needs. Shouldn't let you get me when I'm down my bed. Finding out everybody knows that you've been using me. I'm surprised you let me stay around you. But I really wanna lift the cover and look inside your heart.
People tried to change that drum sound right up to the end of the record, and we
got to New York to cut the record, and Arif Mardin said, "Where's the stomps?" I mean, I thought he was going to redo them again, because he'd probably have some incredible sounds in New York, with all these musicians and everything. We got there, and he said, "No, I've got to have the stomps. I've got to get off the demo.
Where's the floppy?
Where's the floppy? Where's the floppy?" Yeah. And anyway, Scott had to come up with the tape. We took it off the demo and put it onto the master.
And you had another #1 in the UK. Is that still important to you, having hits yourself?
Kidding.
Oh, yeah.
Especially at home.
Yeah. It probably sounds a bit corny to say that it means the same thing to us now as the first one, but it simply does. It's not.
Yeah. It really does.
Yeah, we get a real buzz on it.
Because in the old days, of course, you thought, oh, there's a bit of money coming here, but now you don't need money. You're all very comfortable.
But you know,
it never was then either.
Yeah, but where does your hunger come from now?
Artistic appreciation, the love of creativity, and seeing that love of creativity be sanctified by approval.
The simple way to put it is it's because we have to do it.
Yeah.
It's something that's born in us. We just keep doing it. Even before, when we said we wanted to be like the Beatles, we didn't think about the money or anything like that. We just wanted to be appreciated.
We do it because we have
they were.
So when you say you have to do it, there will not be a time when you're not doing it. You're going to do it till you drop down.
I don't think we'll do it till we drop.
Look at the Stones. I mean, you must remember when we
look at B.B. King and all of that.
I mean, it's Sinatra, all these people.
Yeah. As brothers, all the riffs, all the acrimony is behind you.
Yeah.
Well, you live in the same street in Miami these days, don't you?
That's right, yeah.
370s.
We have lived in places like that.
370 taxis in a row with the Rolls Royce at the front.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not a bit dangerous living in Miami. I'm talking here perhaps with preconceptions. You know, as we sit listening to this in the UK on New Year's Day, we think, oh, Don Johnson, Miami Vice, all the drugs, arms caches and all that Colombian drug money changing hands. And it's not a bit risky.
Where's this?
Miami. There was some story in
right.
Well, there was some story in the popular press about an arms cache being found in your gardens.
That was the property across the road from my house.
It was a place Morris owns. He wasn't there at the time. It was somebody who was renting the house from him.
I like the way the Sun newspaper was flying over the back garden from a helicopter taking pictures.
But is it? Do you feel with your kids? Do you feel any sense of danger here?
Yes, very much so.
A child was found dead in our street about 2 weeks ago, and they still don't know who that child is.
He was found on a bed of leaves in front of a house.
Nobody over here, so blasé over here, nobody has identified or even come forward.
2 weeks ago.
And we live in an exclusive area where it's not, it's not like that's not a boast. You shouldn't be finding dead children in your street, and a child that nobody knows.
They believe the child was abused a lot because he was placed very neatly on a bed of leaves. It wasn't just thrown out.
Yeah. The only picture they could show on television was a picture of the child dead.
What do you like about it here, then?
Well, initially it was the weather and the... living in Australia, we always lived near the sea, and we always liked the sun. We're a bit of sun worshippers. And Miami Beach is different from Miami City.
Yeah.
Miami Beach is a lot different.
But let's be fair, every major city in this country has the same problem. Even every major city in the world now has the same problem to some extent. There is danger, there is violence.
Might you move back home?
We might,
Yeah.
We miss it very much. The important thing about England is the people. And the important thing for us in England is all the people that are our friends.
To go out anywhere for dinner is a big drag.
You don't have the social situation that you have in London or in England. And
No,
the
I
closeness,
like
the humour of people, the way British people see things, it's a different thing.
Songs in the charts now, the British charts are sometimes not very accommodating to great songs, and great songs are your forte. Does that worry you, or will you move towards maybe involving things like, I know you've flirted with rap before, but more rap and more sampling and all sort of...
I don't think we could get away with that.
No.
I mean, we could. It's so easy to do. It's ridiculous.
Well, let's
but we
face
wouldn't.
it.
It's easy to do, isn't
I
it?
mean, since they invented the drum machine, kids can do almost anything. They can make their own records in
Let's
their
face
front
it,
rooms.
rap basically is dribble. It's just dribble, and it's put to a drum beat, and there are a couple of outstanding contributions to rap that might be called actually good. But I think generally it's young kids trying to show their rebellion somehow and trying to be a part of the business.
I mean, whatever rap is,
it's
rap
still
will burn
dribble,
itself out in the next 2 years, if not in the next year. It will burn itself out very fast.
Does somebody not want to say to you, guitar groups are dead?
Yeah, but see, the thing about musical groups is you can be versatile. You can do different things.
See, rap isn't music.
It's a generation thing, though.
See, rap is just talking.
It's young kids rebelling. And I think to some extent heavy metal serves the same purpose for young kids. Not necessarily all young kids. I mean, teenagers up to their 20s like it. What I'm saying is that it's not all good. And in heavy metal, it's not all good either.
See, I don't mind hearing rap if it's incorporated in a song that has, say, a musical chorus, where the guy half sings, half raps. And then
when there's something going on, you can sing along with.
There's something happening.
It's like that record Man-Child, Nina Cherry.
Yeah, that's good.
Rap.
We spoke on Ordinary Lives. We've done what you might call rap if you want to. We do talk on our records sometimes, but we do it in the way you make a film. If it belongs there, you do it.
Well, it's a great point to hear Ordinary Lives, and that actually wraps it all up. It's the last track on the very best of the Bee Gees, which is not quite a definitive compilation, but a pretty good one. There's a few things left off there I would have liked to have seen on it, but...
Well, there is a box set coming out with 80 songs.
It's not a plug, is it?
No, it should be out now. It's just out now, isn't it?
It's not a plug, but it should be just out now.
Yeah, it should be just out this
Funnily
week.
enough.
4 CDs, 80 songs.
I can't remember a New Year's Day as pleasurable as this, chatting to you guys. I can't, honestly. No,
Your wife might have something to say about that.
Be the first one you remember.
Happy New Year.
Same to you, mate.
Have a great 1991. I know it will be, and we've got some new material to look forward to, haven't we?
Yes, coming out in February.
Have a cracking one.
Another plug.
Thank you, Nicky.
Thank you.
There'll be one spotlight all over the world tonight. The search will go on for the while. Yeah, we're loving your name and we got in the sun. There was one small dream, incredible heights.
The Bee Gees with Nicky Campbell was produced by Paul Williams. Coming up after the news, Mark Goodyear's Instant Jukebox.